Hi, it's Kiffin Bates here, and today's video is on merged mining. Now, I wrote an article about this a couple of weeks ago. Merged mining is a system whereby your new chain can piggyback on the security of an existing chain. The idea was actually proposed, well, not proposed, but implemented by Satoshi Nakamoto in the early days of Bitcoin, and Namecoin was the first system that used it. And the idea is very simple. You have miners that are mining Bitcoin blocks, and those blocks have some spare data that you can fill in with whatever you like. Nakamoto famously put in the headline from the Financial Times, Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. But of course, you can put whatever data you like in as long as it's not too long. And so what you can do is you can put in the hash of a block for another chain, and then if the nodes for that chain have a consensus protocol that says that the next valid block should, as evidence that it has been mined properly, provide a Bitcoin block, then you have merge mining. You can be mining Bitcoin blocks, and in the process that mining power kind of carries over onto the auxiliary chain, as they're known, or a merged mining chain. It's a simpler term, I think, than auxiliary chain. I like simpler words rather than complicated ones. And that way your secondary chain, like Namecoin, is piggybacking on the effort that is going into the Bitcoin blockchain or some other chain. For example, Dogecoin mines on top of Litecoin. That's another example of one that you may have heard of. And the questions I have about merge mining tie into the questions I have about the effectiveness of proof of work mining in general. It's you can look at it empirically and say, well, you know, proof of work works, proof of stake works, because just look at Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're still up and running. Of course, the problem with whether a system is effective or not is that you don't truly know until it gets tested. It's the same as building up an arms stockpile in your country to defend yourself. It may look very nice when you're checking through the spreadsheets and looking in all the bunkers at the collection of armaments that you have, but ultimately you only know that it's effective when you find yourself in a war situation and you're using it to defend yourself. And this is the same with blockchains. They are secure up until the point that they are attacked, and that is when you realize whether or not the system works. And so there's a certain level of gut feel as to, is this effective or not? And I have some skepticism about proof of stake, beyond the problems that I think it has with centralizing the wealth, i.e. those who can put up the money to stake will attract more of the money that the system creates. So it becomes a kind of perpetuation of our existing financial systems where wealth attracts wealth, something that I think has become quite a problem in recent times. Proof of work, of course, also has that problem because you can't afford to run a miner very easily. Mining equipment for Bitcoin is no longer something that you just set running on your desktop when you're not using your computer to do whatever it is you do with it. It involves a significant capital outlay and expertise and maintenance to keep it up and running reliably. And so in that sense, proof of work now has the same problem that proof of stake has, in that you need capital to be able to amass further capital in the system. Nevertheless, my gut feel is that proof of work is better than proof of stake in terms of securing the network, and in terms of its incentivization structure, partially because it functions as a bit of a lottery, in that even a small miner could potentially win the reward from a block, which is something that proof of stake doesn't have so much. But anyway, back to the merge mining thing. So the question there is, does that really secure your chain? And I'm in two minds about that as well. It sort of feels at a gut level again, and I know I'm talking about gut feel a lot here, but that's all I've got when it comes to this stuff. At a gut level, it feels like a bit of a cheat. I have this sort of instinctive feeling that it's kind of trying to create security out of nothing, or rather, by piggybacking on it, it's acting almost, surely it must be acting in a kind of a parasitic manner. So is it really going to be secure? And I don't really have the answer to that. It's a complicated question. It may well be an effective kickstart for a young chain, it certainly does prevent your chain from being taken over in a 51% attack when some miners see that they can move their resources from, say, Bitcoin to your chain because they're using the same mining algorithm, and completely flood the block generation list with their blocks rather than somebody else's. But on the other hand, there's that kind of feeling about this second law of thermodynamics in it, which is, in a sense, it feels like you're getting something for nothing. And can that really work? Can that really be the case? But from an empirical point of view, again, it does work, because Namecoin and Dogecoin are still up and running, and have been for, I think, over 10 years in each case. But have they really truly been tested? And I think the answer there is no. So ultimately, we won't know until something goes wrong, and that, of course, is never a good state of affairs when it comes to value and finance and wealth. You don't want to discover on the day that you really need it that the system didn't actually work. Anyway, sorry that this video doesn't actually lead to any firm conclusions. I know that we live in a world where people like to have the questions answered in these kind of things. However, I think that it's more significant when you have questions that you don't at this moment have an answer to. It gives you more to think about. And I think having a certain level of uncertainty and lack of clarity is good, as long as you keep chipping away at it to dig deeper. Find the answers to the questions that you have now, uncover more deeper questions that you don't have answers to. That's the way that we make progress. And on that note, I think I'll wrap it up for today, and I'll see you in the next video soon. Bye for now.